When I think about sports in the past, I realized it didn't just give me experiences or memories, but it actually shaped the way I think about sports today. And at the time, the way I experienced sports felt completely normal, so I never really questioned it. It's only now, looking back at it, that I can see how the past still influences the way I think. Growing up, the sport environment that I was a part of really emphasized things like discipline, performance, and commitment. Sport was treated as something serious, something you train for, work through, and measure through efforts and results. That mindset became completely normal to me. I didn't really think about how others would perceive sports or experience sports because this was the only thing I was ever exposed to. Even things like medals themselves mattered a lot less to me because of the outcome itself and more because of what they represented. They reflected a performance focused version of sports that I learned to value early on, often without realizing how much they actually shaped the way I've been thinking. What I didn't really see at the time is that this environment trained me to think about sports in a very specific kind of way. I ended up linking real or meaningful sport with things like being competitive, structured, and even measurable. And even now, when I watch or even talk about sports, I notice that I tend to value those things uh, more than others, those kind of experiences more than others. And now thinking about it more closely made me realize that this way of seeing sports isn't neutral or even universal. It comes straight from my own background without really meaning to. I sometimes see more recreational or non competitive forms of sports as less serious, even though that judgment is more about my past experiences more than anything even objective. What really stood out to me while reflecting this was how subtle that influence really was. No one ever explicitly told me to look at sport in a certain way or any way looking at it mattered. It was just something I absorbed over time by being a part of that environment because it felt normal to me. I never really questioned it. It wasn't until I stepped back and then I thought about my experiences more critically that I realized how much that environment shaped my expectations of sports. That made me understand how easily our perspectives are formed by the situation we grow up without us even noticing it happen. Realizing this had made me more aware of the assumptions I bring with them. I think about sports now as something that is very different to very different people, depending on their background and experiences. Well, what felt completely normal to me growing up was just really one version or just one way of looking at the sport. What this reflection also made me think about is how this awareness changes over time as we move forward with sports. I'm more conscious now of how quickly I can judge certain forms of sports without realizing where that judgment comes from. Recognizing that made my perspective shape over time, and it makes me more open to different ways people participate in sports. That shift in awareness is what this reflection ultimately gave me.